speak about the male structures and the male genitals. So let's start off with the gonads. We have the testes here. The testes are covered by this outer peritoneal connection called the tunica albuginea. And the tunica albuginea is what kind of separates the testis itself from the scrotal sac, which is found outside. If we look inside of the testes, we have several compartments, several tubular compartments or tubular structures that are called seminiferous tubules. This is where we have Sertoli cells and the development of sperm taking place. We also have the epididymis. So the epididymis is this projection that's found on the medial aspect of the testis that communicates towards the vas deferens. The epididymis has three parts to it. It's got the head, it's got a body, which is the connecting piece, and then it has a tail, the tail of the epididymis. We also know the spermatochord. Now, the spermatochord is connecting towards or leading towards the inguinal region. The spermatochord is actually a connection of different structures within the spermatochord. We have the vas deferens, we have the nerves and arteries and veins that are going towards the penis, such as the pampniform plexus and so on. Not the penis, the testis and the scrotum, such as the pampniform plexus, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. Essentially, the spermatochord has these structures within it, and it's a ligamentous structure that leads from the testis all the way to the inguinal region. And it's actually a remnant of the structure that's responsible for the descent of the testes. So I spoke a little bit earlier in lecture about how the testes develop in the posterior abdominal wall, and then they descend through the inguinal region and make their way to the scrotal sac where they reside. And the remnant of the structure that is responsible for that descent is what eventually becomes the spermatochord, the spermatic cord. All right. Let's look at the remainder of that structure. So we've got the vas deferens, which is communicating. It's a hollow, smooth muscle tube communicating from the testis, from the epididymis specifically, all the way to the ejaculatory duct. So the path that the vas deferens takes is it leaves the scrotum. It goes through the inguinal region on either side, although we're seeing it kind of centrally located here. If we were to look at a frontal view, we would see that it goes right through the inguinal region where that spermatic cord is located. And then it goes over the top of the bladder and comes around to the bottom or the base of the bladder where it communicates into the ejaculatory duct via the ampulla. So the ampulla is the ending of the vas deferens that eventually joins at the ejaculatory duct with the opening of the seminal vesicle. So here we can see the seminal vesicle, which is the gland. We spoke about it a little bit in lecture. It helps with the secretions that are contributing to make semen. We also have the prostate gland, which also contributes to these the secretions that help to make up semen, which has nutrients and enzymes. And this is located at the bottom or the base of the bladder. Here we can see the prostate. And the prostate is actually kind of crossed or bisected by the ejaculatory duct. So the ejaculatory duct, which I mentioned earlier, is a shared duct between the opening from the vas deferens as well as the seminal vesicle into the urethra. Here is another view of some of these structures. Again, we can see the prostate here, the seminal vesicles here, or rather, here. And then the vas deferens, which ends in the ampulla, located here. And then the urinary bladder on top. Let's speak here about the different parts of the urethra. So the urethra in males is divided into several areas depending on what other structures it comes in contact with. So the first part of the urethra in males is the prostatic urethra that runs right through the prostate. The second part is called the membranous urethra. And then the third part is called the spongy urethra that actually runs through the spongiform, the corpus spongiosum of the penis. So we've got the prostatic urethra, the membranous urethra, and the spongy urethra, which comes through the corpus spongiosum. We also have this dilation or this opening at the end of the urethra that's called the fossa navicularis. It's a little bit more prominent in males, and that leads directly to the external urethral orifice or the external urethral meatus, which leads to the opening out of the body cavity in the case of males, and this is found in the penis. Some of the other external genital structures in males, the mons pubis, which is synonymous to the mons pubis in females. Here we can see the genital hair that I mentioned, or the superior aspect of the genital region, the pubic region. We have the penis, which has the shaft, as well as the prepuce, and the prepuce is the foreskin that typically covers the glands of the penis. We also have the glands. So very similar to the glands of the clitoris, the glands of the penis is the tip or the head or the ending of the penis itself, which again, just like in the females, is covered by that prepuce or that foreskin usually. And then we have the scrotum, which we spoke about earlier, which is the sac that actually houses or stores the testes outside of the body cavity. And as we mentioned in the lecture, that is to keep the testes from being exposed to the warmer temperatures of the body. If we look at a cross-section of the penis, we can see the erectile tissue that makes up the penis. There are paired groups of erectile tissue called the corpora cavernosa, and then there's a singular group of erectile tissue called the corpus spongiosum. This is where the urethra, specifically the spongy part of the urethra, transcends. Okay, so we have the corpus, the corpora, because they're paired, corpora cavernosa, and the corpus spongiosum. Now, these erectile bodies or these erectile tissues are responsible for the engorgement, for the erection of the penis, which helps to sustain the penis in that erect state as well. Let's speak about some of the other structures that's found towards the end of the penis. We have the corona of the penis. And the corona is really the circumference of the glands. It's going to be the border, the rounded border at the end of the glands in males. We also have the ridged band, and the ridged band is the sensitive vascular region that leads to the prepuce. So it's the connection between the prepuce that is kind of eventually going to cover the entire glands of the penis itself. And then finally, the frenulum. So the frenulum is this strip or ridge of tissue that is connecting or anchoring the prepuce to the center of the base of the penis here. So this is the external urethral orifice, and towards the base of that, we can see the frenulum just anchors the prepuce and keeps it stabilized towards the base of the penis. And if you think about the word frenulum, we spoke about the frenula in the oral cavity, the superior and inferior frenula, which help to anchor the lips towards the gums, as well as the lingual frenula, or the frenulum of the tongue, that helps to anchor the tongue to the floor of the oral cavity. And the frenulum here is kind of serving in a similar role. It's anchoring the prepuce. Although the prepuce is mobile, it's anchoring the prepuce at the base of the penis. Not the base, but the bottom of the penis. Okay. Two other additional structures here. The cremaster muscle is surrounding the testes. It's also going to be found in females, but to a much lesser extent. It's much more prominent in males. And the function of the cremaster muscle is to contract or relax, to either suspend or to recoil the testes from the body cavity. So while the testes are being suspended beneath the body cavity to protect them from the warmer internal environment, the warmer internal body temperature, we don't want the testes to be exposed to excess cold and temperatures either. So when the external scrotal environment becomes increasingly cold, the cremaster muscle will contract and help to drag or to pull the testes up closer to the body cavity so that they can be exposed to a bit of the warmth that's associated there. So that is the cremaster muscle. We also have the pampniform plexus. So the pampniform plexus is the connection or collection of veins that supply or are draining the testes. And that is running together with the testicular artery that is actually supplying blood to the testes. So the blood supply to the testes is comprised of the testicular artery as well as the network or plexus of veins that's called the pampniform plexus. And just to remind ourselves, these are the vessels that I mentioned that are running in the spermatic cord. The pampniform plexus, which eventually fuses to become the testicular vein, as well as the testicular artery.